You know how every love story has that one moment when everything changes? Ours came with chicken parmesan and a bottle of Merlot. I spent 2 hours perfecting that damn chicken. Fresh herbs, homemade marinara, golden breading, the whole 9 yards. Even mashed the potatoes by hand like some TV chef. I lit candles, picked a jazz playlist off Spotify that said romantic dinner without trying too hard. Wore the shirt she once said made me look like a responsible James Dean. I was going all in. It wasn't our anniversary, no birthday, just one of those nights where I looked at our marriage and thought, this can still be fixed. Spoiler. It couldn't. She walked in, heels clicking across the hardwood like punctuation marks. Lipstick, dress, even curled her hair. For a second, I thought maybe she'd felt it too, that quiet space growing between us, and maybe she wanted to close it. Wrong again. The first 2 glasses of wine went smooth. We laughed. She even touched my hand when I brought out dessert, cheap tiramisu from the Italian place down the street, but I plated it like I gave a damn. Her laugh was real, or at least it sounded real enough that I didn't question it. But then came glass number 3. She leaned back, tilted her head, and stared at me like she was watching a rerun of a show she used to love, but now couldn't stand. "You're such a nice guy, Phil," she said, which, by the way, is code for, "I'm about to say something you'll regret hearing." "You're a nice guy. That's why I'm here with you," she said again, swirling her wine like it was a potion. Then she hit me with it. "I've never really been attracted to you. You're not my type. Now, I've heard people say words can feel like a punch to the gut. But this wasn't a punch. This was like realizing you've been building a house on sand and the tide just came in. I kept my face neutral, nodded slowly like she'd just told me the weather forecast. She went on. "God," she went on, "I like dangerous men," she said. "Guys who don't care what people think. The kind of men who'd break a law or two just for fun. You know the type. Sleeve tattoos, probably a motorcycle that doesn't start half the time, an ex-girlfriend named Karma, real stable stuff, and then she said it. I've been seeing someone like that. For a while now. She was drunk, sure. But drunk people tell the truth, just with fewer filters. And there was no remorse in her voice, no shame. Just a buzzed woman airing her dirty laundry over a plate of cold mashed potatoes. This wasn't an apology, I'd later tell my buddy Mark. It wasn't even regret. It was a drunken justification wrapped in wine breath. And that's when it clicked. All those late nights when her phone was dead. The sudden interest in spin classes with the girls. The fact that she stopped touching me like I was a man and started treating me like I was a roommate with a credit score. She'd been gone long before this dinner. I was just the last one to get the memo. By the time she passed out on the couch, one heel dangling off her foot, mouth half open, I knew what I had to do. I packed a bag. Not a dramatic one, just the essentials. A few shirts, my laptop, passport, the cash stash in my sock drawer she didn't know about. Grabbed my car keys, wrote down nothing, and walked out. No notes, no goodbyes, no slow-motion montage. By sunrise, I vanished. Let me rewind for a second, though. Because if you're reading this thinking I was some idiot who missed every red flag, you're not totally wrong, but you're not right either. See, I grew up in a house where the solution to every problem was work harder. Roof leaking? Fix it. Grades slipping? Study more. Marriage feeling like a sinking ship? Row faster. So I did. We got married after 2 years of dating. She was beautiful, spontaneous, had a laugh that made people turn their heads at restaurants. I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world. I wasn't rich, but I provided. Worked my ass off running HVAC contracts across the city. Long days, short nights. But I always came home with something. A bottle of wine, her favorite takeout, tickets to a jazz night. She never went. I thought gestures would keep love alive. I thought working harder meant loving harder. Turns out I was just spinning my wheels while she checked out emotionally and physically. I remember the first signs. She started sleeping in later. More makeup, less eye contact. Her phone became a second limb, always flipped screen down. Our conversations became transactional. Me. How was your day? Her. Fine. That was it. No details, no smiles, just fine. Like I was a barista asking about her latte preference. But I didn't want to believe it. Chalked it up to stress, routine. Marriage gets hard, right? That's what people say. So, I doubled down. Flowers on random Tuesdays, weekend trips she always canceled. I even learned to cook that damn chicken parmesan because it was her comfort meal. Funny how comfort food becomes ironic in hindsight. I kept telling myself, she just needs time. But time, it turns out, was something she spent with someone else. That night, our romantic dinner was the final nail. And here's the thing most people don't talk about. Betrayal doesn't always come with yelling or tears. Sometimes it comes dressed in silk, holding a wine glass, casually dismantling your worth one sentence at a time. She didn't cry, didn't beg for forgiveness. She confessed like she was talking about a Netflix show she'd binged behind my back. I just can't help myself, she said. It's who I am. Well, darling, who you are no longer has anything to do with who I'll ever be. I didn't burn bridges, didn't scream or throw plates. I just left. And for the first time in 2 years, I slept like a rock. Leaving her wasn't the hard part. Staying gone? That's where most men trip. But I'd already made my decision before the sun came up. No dramatic fights, no one-sided closure speech. Just me, my duffel bag, and a quiet front door click. The first thing I did was drive to a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. Sat in a red booth that smelled like syrup and bad decisions. Ordered black coffee and pancakes I didn't touch. My phone buzzed once. Her name on the screen. I watched it light up, then die out. She tried again. 5 minutes later. Then again I didn't pick up. Instead, I opened my laptop and emailed my accountant, my lawyer, and my cousin Jimmy. Because Jimmy knows a guy for everything. I told him I was done. I wanted everything divided clean. I didn't want revenge, just distance. She didn't deserve closure. She deserved silence. By noon, she'd left 7 voicemails. By evening, I'd already signed the initial divorce documents and locked down the joint accounts. I left her enough to be fair. Not generous, not cruel, just fair. The next week, she refused to sign anything. She called, texted, emailed, used phrases like, "You're overreacting," and "Let's talk like adults." She even pulled the classic, "I was drunk, I didn't mean any of it." Sure, sweetheart. You accidentally detailed your romantic preferences and confessed to adultery because you misread the wine label? Nah. Then she hit me with the nostalgia angle. Remember when we used to walk through the farmer's market every Saturday? Yeah. I remember you flirting with the barista and saying he had artist hands. She tried guilt. I was going through something. She tried pity. I need help. She even tried the classic Hail Mary. I think I'm pregnant, I told her. Good luck figuring out who the father is. Cruel? Maybe. Honest? Definitely. Eventually, she realized I wasn't bluffing, that this wasn't a pause. It was a hard stop. She signed the papers after the 3rd meeting with her lawyer, right around the time she realized she'd need to sell her handbag collection just to keep up with rent. Turns out freedom ain't free. So where did she end up? Let me paint you a picture. The Instagram selfies didn't stop, of course. For the first few months post-divorce, her feed looked like a music video. Beaches, cocktails, leather jackets, and shirtless guys with neck tattoos and zero ambition. Every picture had captions like, "Living my truth," or "Healing isn't linear." Translation, I still think this is a game. But the thing about chasing bad boys is, sooner or later, one of them leaves you with more than just a hangover. 3 months after our divorce finalized, she got pregnant. Not by a man, by a vibe. She posted a cryptic baby announcement with no mention of a father, just a pair of tiny shoes and a caption. A new chapter begins. I didn't comment, but I did screenshot it. Just for the scrapbook of poor decisions. 6 weeks later, she listed our old house on Zillow. Bad market, wrong timing. Still, she needed the cash. I imagine the tattooed Casanova bailed faster than a Tesla stock dip. Her girls' nights turned into solo bar tabs. Her friends stopped showing up. She messaged me once. Just one sentence. I wish I'd appreciated what we had. I didn't reply. What for? By then I'd already moved into a new place. Nothing fancy, two-bedroom rental with creaky floors and a stubborn AC. But it was quiet, peaceful. No one crying on the bathroom floor because a dream felt too real. No passive-aggressive sighs when I got home from work. No pretending. I was the villain in someone else's fantasy. For the first time in years, I could hear myself think. People ask if I missed her. Let me be clear, I missed the idea of her, the version I thought existed. The woman who used to sing off-key while brushing her teeth. The girl who once kissed me in the rain outside that busted-up drive-in theater. But that woman died somewhere between her fourth girls' trip and her new love for Red Bull vodkas. I grieved her, but the woman who told me straight-faced that I wasn't her type, that woman, I buried in my memory next to high school math and dial-up internet. I started hitting the gym again. Bought a used motorcycle that broke down twice in the first month. But hell, it felt good. I even started going to open mic comedy nights. Not to perform, just to watch other people bomb worse than I did at marriage. I reconnected with old friends. Got my laugh back. You don't realize how heavy a person's presence is until they're gone, and suddenly your space feels 10 pounds lighter. It wasn't all smooth, though. There were nights I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd been blind or just hopeful. Wondering how many times she'd lied with a straight face. Wondering if she was lying when she said I do. But then I'd remember that night. The candles, the chicken parmesan, her words slurring out between bites of tiramisu, and I'd feel nothing but relief. She told me the truth. That's the twist. She told me who she really was, and I finally listened. There's a saying I read on a bumper sticker once. Some people come into your life as blessings, others as lessons. Well, she was a damn TED Talk. And what did I learn? If someone tells you they don't value you, believe them the first time. Don't wrap it in excuses or hope. Don't try to work harder for someone who doesn't care that you're trying at all. Love is a two-way street. But I spent 2 years building a 6-lane highway just to find out she never planned on driving in my direction. Now I take detours. I slow down. I pay attention to the signs, and if someone says they like dangerous men, I wish them well and step aside, because I've seen what danger looks like behind closed doors, and I'm not interested in living through another emotional house fire. It was a Tuesday. Not the kind of day you expect your past to show up in ripped jeans and smeared mascara. I was in the garage, elbow deep in motor oil, trying to get my stubborn old bike to stop sounding like a dying lawnmower. That thing's more emotional than half the women I've dated. But at least it doesn't lie. Doorbell rang. Once, then again. Short, impatient. I wiped my hands, opened the front door, and there she was, hair longer, eyes tired. That false confidence people wear when they've rehearsed what they're going to say all the way over. "Phil," she breathed, like we were mid-conversation and I'd just stepped out for milk. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but like life had taken the air out of her. You know when you leave a beach ball in the sun too long? Yeah, like that. Before I could say anything, her eyes welled up. "I know I'm the last person you want to see." "Correct. I've made so many mistakes." "Also correct. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I was wrong about everything. About you, about me, about all of it." She stepped forward. I didn't move. "I miss you," she said, voice cracking. "I've never stopped needing you." There it was. The grand, romantic line. The trailer-worthy plea. The Oscar submission. But I wasn't moved. I just tilted my head, leaned on the door frame, and gave her the same look I give telemarketers when they say, "This is your final chance to claim a free cruise." "Oh, now you need me?" I said. "You mean after you blew through your freedom, picked a few bad boys with commitment allergies, and sold the house I used to mow the lawn for every Sunday?" She flinched. "You were right about one thing," I added. "I am a nice guy. That's why I'm not telling you what I really want to say right now." Tears spilled. She reached out like it was still allowed. "I've changed," she whispered. "You have to believe me." I shook my head. "No, I don't. That's the beauty of healing. I don't have to believe anyone anymore. Especially not you. She stood there for a second like she expected a twist, like I'd suddenly smile and say, "Just kidding. Get in here, let's raise that mystery baby together." Instead, I gave her one last gift. The truth. "You made your choice," I said. "And you made it while drunk on my wine, eating my food in my house, while telling me I wasn't good enough. You don't get to backpedal now, just because reality hit you like a rent bill." Her lip trembled. "You don't understand how hard it's been?" "Sure I do," I said. "But you see, I'm not in the business of catching people who jump just to see if anyone will catch them." Then I stepped back, gripped the door. "Go find your type," I told her. "See if he wants you now." Click. Door closed, lock turned. No. Screaming. No drama. Just closure with the sound of a deadbolt. I made a sandwich after that. Turkey and cheddar on rye. A little mustard, real man food. Sat out back, watched the sun dip behind the neighbor's roof, and let the silence wash. Over me, I didn't feel angry or smug or victorious. I felt clean, lighter than I had in years. She had returned expecting the man she once broke to be waiting, arms wide, ready to play the role of Savior 2.0. What she found was a man who'd rebuilt himself out of all the shattered pieces she left behind, and liked who he'd become. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone who betrays you is your absence. Other times, it's your indifference. So what happened after that? Well, she stopped reaching out. At least to me. I heard through the grapevine she moved in with her sister, works part-time at some boutique that sells overpriced candles with names like Sandalwood Therapy and Grief and Patchouli. Last I checked, she was still single. Still searching. As for me, I'm not rushing into anything. Dating again, sure. But I screen harder now. I ask questions. I trust energy over words. And I no longer accept love that feels like a debt I owe. I started my own HVAC business. Small. Crew, good guys. I actually enjoy getting up in the morning again. I go on hikes. I read more. I sleep like a rock. And every now and then, I make chicken parmesan. Just for me. Here's what I've learned. When someone shows you they don't respect your love, don't hand them more chances wrapped in hope. Don't mistake effort for effectiveness. Don't bleed yourself dry trying to water someone who's already thriving on someone else's attention. Walk away. Quietly. Without a scene. Without a monologue. And don't look back. They'll either learn something or they won't. But that's not your job anymore. You owe it to yourself to find peace, even if it means being alone. Especially if it means being alone. Because being alone and sane beats being together and slowly losing who you are. In losing her, I found myself, and that I realized was the only closure I would ever need.